All right, so we just watched the bit where various people announce Charles. It's a bit like at a gig. You ever been to a gig where someone announces the band before they come on?
Yes.
Yeah. And then like a roadie comes on and everyone in the crowd sort of screams and they go, hang on, that's not actually the band, is it? And you sort of get about 3 announcements and, when is the show actually going to start? But yeah, you seem to need various people to tell everyone who he was, which doesn't bode well. Surely we should know who he is by now. But he's the undoubted king.
He is the undoubted king. And maybe some people have just turned up on spec to stay out of the rain and are wondering what the occasion is. I don't know.
Yeah. It's good to be announced that many times, though, isn't it?
I mean, if he's not the legitimate heir, that would be the surprise of a...
I don't think it's like a marriage. I don't think if anyone here objects today, I don't think you get to.
Is it not? Then why do they say he's the undoubted king? Surely that language comes from...
Well, it's an assertion, not a question.
Yes, and the other thing to remember about these ceremonies, because the ceremony is very old, is that they started when you wouldn't know what the king looked like. So you're saying, look, this is the king. You see the one with the big hat? He's the king.
And we got various people to corroborate that, multiple sources to confirm.
Which is why, when you had the sort of the pretenders who popped up under Henry VII, it was plausible that maybe they were the Duke of York from way back, because who could know? Nobody knew what they looked like.
And if you got anointed, that's it?
Well, I mean, actually, you are king as soon as the previous king dies. I mean, the coronation has no sort of legal effect. It doesn't sort of add anything to the powers of the monarch. It is purely a religious service and adds a religious dimension to it. But in constitutional terms, I mean, you could not have a coronation as Edward VIII didn't, because he wasn't around long enough before his abdication to organise one. But it didn't affect his fact of being king.
Yeah.
But this is very much a spiritual and religious.
Edward VIII, incidentally, would have fucking loved this.
Oh, God, yes, yeah.
Why did he not take the coronation and then abdicate?
He talked about it. I mean, he was under pressure to actually do that. And I'm going to be really bold here and say his girlfriend told him not to, because that is apparently the reason.
Okay.
Based on the research that I've done.
Yeah, he would have dug this party, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, a little bit more.
Yeah. So Charles has just been delivered. Who gave him the Bible? Some Scottish guy?
The moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland, who is effectively the kind of head of the Church of Scotland, but only in a very democratic sense.
I mean, I guess the whole King James thing, like they have ownership over Bibles, right?
Well, yeah, although the King James Bible was principally for the Church of England, but the Church of Scotland's very sort of non-hierarchical. Each individual parish elects elders, and there is a sort of parliament of the Church of Scotland called the General Assembly, which meets every year in Edinburgh, and it elects a moderator who presides over the church in a sense for a year.
Oh, so they don't have to like police the chat forums. That's not.
No. Although
not that kind of
these days, I mean, I don't know, but the Church of Scotland is an odd institution, but they're also very proud of the fact that although they are, in a sense, the established church in Scotland, they're not a state church. They're not governed by the crown, but they are the sort of quote unquote official church.
Okay, the Bible had the year on it.
It did. It's a special Bible made for the occasion with the royal cipher. One of the interesting things, interesting to me anyway, is that the Bible which the moderator presents to the king has to include not only the usual bits of the Bible, but also the Apocrypha, the bits which were rejected at various times by the church. So it's got the sort of whole shebang in it.
Does that mean he's signing up? He's kissing the Apocryphy?
I suppose he is in a sense. I'm not quite sure why it is that the Apocrypha are in there, but it needs to be the sort of full set of
just in case.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really interesting. Now, I obviously he's bricking it, right? Because this is
I don't know. The thing about Charles is that he is quite a confidently arrogant man. And it's been a long time coming. He always seems a bit like his father, a little bit like, yes, yes, I know, yes, I'll do these things, yes, get on with it. That seems to be his sort of general disposition. Just get on with it. I think he felt he came over quite confident. I don't think he needed cue cards.
well, that's what. First of all, his posture always throws me off because he doesn't hold himself in a confident way.
Mm.
So I think maybe that's me misreading or whatever. Obviously, his face is more wizened now than I remember growing up.
Yeah.
But he hasn't often been in the spotlight much compared to the other royals in the past 20 years.
This is him under the sort of scrutiny that he's never had before, and he's suddenly the star attraction. I mean, he's been the heir to the throne for longer than anyone in history. I mean, he was heir. Well, he was heir when he was heir presumptive when he was born in 1948, and then of course he was the first in line since 1952. So 70 years as heir to the throne, and finally you get the job.
Imagine getting your first job in your 70s.
I mean, he's been self-employed for quite a long time.
Well, it's been a sort of apprenticeship, but I don't know if he gets any qualifications, unless this counts as a qualification.
And he's been making sausages for many years, some of which have now ended up on his hands.
Unfortunately, we've had obviously he had to put his hand on the Bible when he was taking his oaths, and they did a close up on his fingers, which I think it's pretty fair to say are sausage like.
They are
in appearance,
somewhat akin to a set of sausages, it must be said.
All right, so
but holy sausages.
So oaths are taken, and we will come back with you after the next segment.
All right, so God, those choir boys went on a bit, didn't they? Bloody hell!
I told you they're doing all of the verses of every single one of these songs, and he did not.
It's like having 50 Alfies in a room, sort of chittering in tune.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we were planning this podcast. The hymns chosen for today are not, there's not a banger among them.
No good hymns. Speaking of a hymn that was no good. Sorry, the world. This is what we have as a prime minister.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys.
I might suggest that for someone who has a lisp, that the epistle to the Colossians
was a giant prank played on him.
Is a little bit of a challenge. And look, we're not going to mock him for having a lisp. I forgot what the actual condition is called.
But take away the speech impediment or peculiarity or whatever, I don't. Why call it an impediment? It doesn't impede. We all know what he's saying. So what's the issue? And so no shade on that. But it's the rest of his bloody voice. It's the complete lack of
gravitas.
Yeah.
And
he just always sounds like he's opening a municipal swimming pool.
Elliot can't say anything.
Well, he is our first millennial prime minister, so he's, from a younger generation. Perhaps they lack gravitas.
Yeah, uncomfortable, speaking or something.
He can't be a millennial.
He's 41.
Oh, my word. Okay.
He's a generation in those terms below me, which is a depressing thought. But yes, he was born in the 1980s.
All right. Well, I guess that counts. Yeah, he and I probably would have gone to high school together. I mean, we wouldn't have because he went to a private school,
Yeah, no way would
which was
you.
all boys.
Yeah.
which was all boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although that wouldn't have stopped me. I would have found a way.
You went to a few all boys schools, didn't you, when you were that age?
I did, well,
Not you,
only-
Ellie and Michelle.
I think well, only the one I was at.
All right, next. So how do the words go in that song again?
There was something about Hallelujah.
Ah,
I
right.
think. But
So
it didn't really develop from there, I thought.
No.
we've just had a reading from the Gospel, I believe, according to St. Luke, and Robin was asking, by way of explanation, I only know this because I grew up Catholic, but he was asking why they take the book and show it around.
Is it a bit like when the sommelier shows you the bottle of wine to prove that they haven't just poured you something out of a flagon in the back?
Yes, but I don't think you can sort of taste the gospel, or I don't know. There's probably some deeply symbolic meaning in there. But
I think that's Pepsi's new slogan, isn't it?
but, yeah,
Taste the
but presumably the king did basically say, "Yeah, it's very good."
Or did he say confirm it? Oh, yeah, that is the gospel according to St. Luke. Because that's what he's supposed to do with the wine, isn't he? You're supposed to go, oh yeah, that is the one, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't think that's miles away from it.
So we have the gospel followed by some gospel.
Yes. This is now we don't have the commentary on, thank goodness for that, because I don't think they'd be able to help us much anyway. But there is a very well-dressed gospel group singing a cappella. Unfortunately, the first soloist was a bit out of her range there and maybe not breathing enough. So
Yeah,
it wasn't
she
the
was
most...
on nodding terms with the tune.
Sure. Yeah. So it wasn't perhaps the most tuneful song, but look, they were into it. They were moving.
They certainly were.
It's nice to see some people of color involved in the vital parts of this ceremony. So I'll take it. Also, they're, again, love their outfits.
Yeah, they look pretty fly. I mean, this was one of Charles's requests, wasn't it?
I believe so. Yes, it's part of the opening out of the ceremony to not only other faiths but other denominations of Christianity and other parts of the community from those who would have been involved in the last coronation in 1953, and to make it more representative of the country.
Better than the bloody choir boys, anyway. Shut up, you little brats. All right, I'm gonna talk over it just because most people watching this, when they hear Zadok the priest, they'll be thinking this is a Champions League match. But also the fact they're bringing the screens out. You know how before Champions League matches, you have a bunch of kids holding the sort of the UEFA football thing and they wave it, right? And I just kept thinking they were going to wave the screens in that way they do for the photo calls before Champions League matches. The bird contains the oil.
Yes, the chrism is kept in the. It's shaped like an eagle, and its head. I think it. You're not going to believe this, but I think the oil comes out of the beak.
Out of the beaky.
And you pour it into the anointing spoon.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? It's good that it doesn't come out of its butt.
Nice
Hang on.
view of the hot aquaria again.
Charles has got his shirt untucked.
The pug.
It's a banger though, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the only unmissable one, I think, from today's program.
P-Chick. Have we told the P-Chick story on the pod?
No, we will.
We will. We're going to do a whole spin-off podcast about the mythology of P-Chick. Stay tuned. I don't think you all want to listen to all of Zadok the Priest, but we just wanted to pop in on this bit because it's a bit we all like, isn't it? Yeah. Right, more hot gossip on the oil.
The oil, the chrism, the anointing oil with which His Majesty has just been anointed, it has been specially made for the occasion. It is essentially olive oil from the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem, with various other, I was going to say herbs and spices, but elements added to it. I think there's some citrus in there.
Oh,
But interestingly, and I wrote about this recently, it is also vegan, because previous oils used for anointing, though not, I think, in 1953, but previously had both civet oil, which is from the bottoms of small rodents, and ambergris, which is from the
whale vomit.
Whale
the insides
vomit.
of sperm whales in them. But His Majesty wanted animal-friendly oil, so we have vegan chrism. It's not every day you can say that. Oh, I had some lovely vegan chrism in the other week.
Yeah, I expect to see that on the menu at Leon imminently.
Yeah. I like to note that he looked a bit like a sad cater waiter when he was kneeling down just just in the shirt. But
I
now,
thought he looked rather like there is an ability in humbleness, which I thought I thought he pulled off the untucked shirt. I've just come out of a steamy tryst with God look.
Maybe this is how he disports himself at home. I don't know. Untucks his shirt, shrugs off the cares of the day, and
I don't think he undresses himself.
What do you think? The Queen just rips the clothes off him?
No, I think he's got,
think
staff
he's got people,
to
you think?
undress. Yeah, they don't dress themselves. Surely not.
He will almost certainly have somebody to put his clothes out for him. Yes, he'll have a valet.
Yeah.
Did you know? So he had that oil specially made for him. This is one just from Michelle. Did you know that Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead has just released his own olive oil?
No, but I'd buy it.
You can buy Johnny Greenwood olive oil. The tin has been designed by Stanley Donwood, the Radiohead artist.
Oh, amazing.
He's got his own olive grove and he's making olive oil.
I'd get it just for the artwork.
Yeah. Or maybe I'll buy you some, eh? There you go. So that should have been used, really. If Charles was really au fait with current vogues, he'd have gone for the Radiohead olive oil.
Radiohead olive oil. Well.
Speaking of everything being in its right place, we got, thank you, we got a little glimpse of
Louis.
Of Prince Louis being a little springling, jumping right out of his seat.
Yeah.
Talking to mom, talking to dad. I hope that there's some photographer there who
Captured every
moment of that, because I would have loved.
I mean, there are
it.
no photographers, but
Sure.
But maybe someone screen capped. We will say, like, Twitter has been saying that Penny Mordaunt, who masterfully held that sword aloft, my God, the grip on that woman, has won the day. My award thus far goes to the shady teenage girl in the front row who seems to be there with her mum, who is rolling her eyes. It's astonishing. She's rolling her eyes more than Glenn out of The Walking Dead. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, all the way into the back of her skull. And I don't blame her, because to separate a teenage girl from her phone for this period of time.
All my friends are going to the mall. I can't believe I've got to be here.
Yeah. Well, and the after party won't be worth it either, because all the boys are her cousins.
As long as they're not first cousins, I think that's all right.
Okay, so we have now seen Charles change from his cater waiter outfit into a gold robe, I suppose. I'm not wild about it.
I thought it fit him quite well. I thought it showed off his trim but muscular physique. I felt that Lord Coe may do some training with him in it, the way he used to for William Hague, was it?
It was indeed, yes.
Yep.
Yes, he trained William Hague in judo. No,
Hang on, William Hague wasn't there.
No, he was never prime minister.
Was he just acting for
No,
a
he was
time?
leader of the opposition, but never.
Oh,
never
of
prime minister.
course.
He was. In those days, it was actually an astonishing thing that a Conservative leader didn't become prime minister. It's become kind of.
You're right. Yeah,
but-
in my head, he was for a time, but no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But yes, the king has donned his super tunica, his super tunic, which is inspired by the Byzantine costume, apparently. So,
Oh, interesting.
which I can see.
And you were saying earlier that traditionally the not undergarments, but the outer garments are breeches and tights, but he's chosen to wear trousers.
Yes, he's chosen to wear trousers, which is a bit more modern.
Yeah, because the Byzantine gold robe.
Yeah,
is,
very,
yeah.
very cutting edge.
I think he maybe didn't want to look like an 8-year-old boy when he was kneeling.
I don't think there was any danger of him looking like an 8-year-old boy. Having worn breeches and tights, I did not look like an 8-year-old boy.
No, but that was that's a different setting. If you're just in, I'm saying if you're just in like a white button-down shirt and breeches and tights, it's
right.
a bit...
You're not going to whip your trousers off to change into the breeches, are you?
No, you need to start off wearing them, I think.
Yeah.
It's quite an elaborate business to get into them.
So,
But he did that masterfully. He sat in his super robe.
Yep, sat in his super robe on the chair that has been used in every coronation.
Every coronation since Edward I in the 1290s.
Yeah, lots of graffiti on that chair.
Yep. Which we have covered, so we won't go into more detail.
Right,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
no,
I forgot we talked about that
we've
already.
done
Well, sorry, I don't, we've been talking about so much for so long, it all kind of
well, indeed.
runs together.
Quite right. But
So
the pug is going crazed now by Elliot's mic. She's fweening out, as I like
she's
to say.
fweening out.
Yep.
Elliot is her favorite uncle.
Yeah.
Has to be said. So, what was I saying? Yes. So he's passed a selection of objects that he has to sort of put his hand. Is he blessing it? Are the objects blessing him? What's happening there?
The objects are presented first for a sort of blessing at the altar, and then they're passed to him as sort of symbols of his kingship and various aspects of it.
This is yours now, and this is yours now,
Yeah,
and this
it's
peach
basically like
stuff
Christmas
is
if you're
yours.
the only one getting presents.
Right.
They sort of queue up to give them to you.
They're
this
like,
weird ring on a weird penis holder. This is yours now. It's your
except
ring.
it'll never fit your sausage fingers,
No.
so we're not going to try.
Well, at Victoria's coronation, the Archbishop of Canterbury attempted to put it on the wrong finger.
Oh.
Because it was all a bit.
Oh.
The sort of early to mid 19th century coronations were all a bit higgledy-piggledy because they hadn't really got back into the swing of doing things the way they had in the Middle Ages. So various things were dropped at William IV's coronation, I think, in 1830. And then in 1837, at Victoria's coronation, the Archbishop was jamming the ring on the wrong finger.
Wow.
Jeez.
I mean, I don't think that invalidated it or anything. It's not one of those, haha, jeopardy. But yeah, it was all a bit of a mess. We've got the hang of it now, although we've had this sort of 70-year hiatus, so there's been a lot of relearning, I would imagine, in the halls of power.
Yeah, it's good though. There should be presents at a party.
Yeah, lots of shiny, sparkly things, and then
He got a different sword, didn't he? Not the one
got
that
a different
Penny was holding
sword,
for, the
but-
Sword of State, but this time the fancy jewelled sword.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Yes, there's a lot of sword going on. There are 4 swords carried at the in the procession for the coronation, and then he is presented with one of them, the Sword of Mercy, I believe. So yes, it's
And was instructed not to use it to go chopping people's heads off, but to defend the faith with it.
indeed it's very important to use your sword wisely when you're a king.
They so rarely do.
Well, when it's Will's turn, it's almost certainly that. Never mind.
I think I see where you were going with that.
Yeah, well, he's known for being a shagger. I can't see why that should change just because he becomes king. Anyway, Will's put a sash around the old man. What was the sash for?
I think it was a stole. I mean, a lot
Couldn't
of
they buy one?
a lot. No, it's like the rest of the empire. We just
Yeah.
nicked it. I think a lot of the coronation clothes are sort of semi-priestly in origin. So, as in the same way priests wear stoles and albs and copes, the king ends up wearing similar things because, historically priests and kings sort of blur into one in a sense. I mean, this is the king being anointed, whereas, priests are also anointed. He was presented with first his super tunic and then with the stole by the Prince of Wales. And then he'll have a big robe to put on to go back out in the cold.
Does and forgive me if this has already happened and I just completely missed it, but does the Prince of Wales have a coronation as well? Because Charles did, didn't he?
There will be a ceremony, presumably, for the Prince of Wales, yes. Charles had one at Carnarvon Castle in 1969. But that was when he came of age. Obviously, William was already of age when he was made Prince of Wales last year. So it can be at any point, I suppose. But yes, there'll be an investiture of some description, which will be held in Wales, presumably to emphasise the sort of Welsh character of the title.
How did they feel about him in Wales? There was always a lot of fuss about how the Welsh felt about Charles, but you don't hear much about how they feel about William, do you?
Well, he did spend some of his service with the search and rescue at RAF Valley in Anglesey. So he has lived in Wales for a bit. I don't know if he speaks the language. Charles did learn it before he became Prince of Wales. But, I mean, it's a relatively new thing for William, so he's still settling into it. Whether he'll sort of go the whole, whatever Welsh for hog is, it's probably hog, but just spelled differently.
With two L's.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it? That's a hog. Yeah.
But whether he'll sort of lean into the Welshness, I don't know. But
Best episode of The Crown, wasn't it?
Oh, so
That
good.
one. Charles learning Welsh. Love that
Amazing.
episode. Now, did Charles request that only a couple of people do the whole homage malarkey?
it was decided, as far as I know, that the Archbishop of Canterbury would pay homage, and then usually again at the last coronation, I think it was the royal dukes and then all the other dukes who also paid homage after the Duke of Edinburgh. I think there were sensitivities about perhaps Prince Andrew being included in that whole setup.
Right.
But also, I mean, if you've got 20 people doing it, it's going to take, half an hour or more. So if you want to slim down the ceremony and perhaps not have the awkwardness of his brother being featured in the limelight, and of course what to do with the Duke of Sussex as well. Does he get to pay homage, or is he involved in any way? I think those two issues were perhaps sidestepped by just having Prince William do it in effect on behalf of the peerage as a whole.
Right. Because in House of the Dragon, they all did it, apart from that one who was like, oh, I'm not so sure, and then they cut his head off.
Yeah, a different fictional situation, but point taken.
Right.
A little disappointed now that you mention it that no one's head's been cut off at this coronation yet.
Have heads ever been cut off at coronations? And you can go right back.
I can't think of any. No, I mean, I think it's, you kind of do that sort of stuff before or after rather than during, I think. But
which one was the unready?
Ethelred.
Well, yeah, unready, though, is a mistranslation of the Anglo-Saxon unread, which means ill-counselled. So he had bad advice rather than just not being ready.
I always thought it's that he wasn't red.
No, I don't think it's that,
No.
he was forever being said, can we leave? No, I've just got to, haven't quite got the crown on yet. But it was Ethelred the Unready.
And it was Alfred that burnt the cakes.
Supposedly, yes. Yes, while he was...
Again, why be known just for one culinary cock-up?
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe the problem was he just never cooked again, and so everybody was reminded of that time that he screwed up with the cakes.
I mean, it's not like he was on Bake Off or something.
No, I mean, it wasn't his forte. It wasn't. He was never claiming to be a great chef. He was claiming to be King of Wessex, and indeed was King of Wessex.
Yeah.
But, he never said, I'm Alfred, King of Wessex, and by the way, I make a fantastic Bakewell tart.
No.
It just didn't happen. But
I think it was a very wise decision not to include all the family members.
I think it's probably sensible, given that there are issues around at least two of them, for different reasons.
But why did Andrew even show up?
What else is he going to do?
Obviously, I don't know him personally, but I'm given to understand that he feels that he still has a place in the royal family as Duke of York and second son of Her late Majesty, and he was always very keen to emphasise that his daughters were, princesses of the blood and were, had a special status. And,
yeah, but they could be there to represent him. They got to bring plus ones.
I'm not sure self-awareness is his strongest suit. Having rewatched some highlights of his interview with Emily Maitlis last night.
Oh boy!
When she puts it to him that he hosted a birthday party for Ghislaine Maxwell at Sandringham, and he says, no, just a standard shooting weekend. So not a birthday party then, just a standard shooting
shooting weekend.
Run of the mill.
Also, there are plenty of children who don't get the silver spoon kept in their mouth because their parents fucked up. Sorry, that's part of the price that you have to pay. You've let your kids down. Your fault, no one else's.
But at least you do get to go to a Pizza Express in Woking.
Well, that is the worst part of it all. It truly is. Yeah, no, interesting that they didn't do all that. There's been a big...
But they've got every clergy member in existence practically doing their bit, although you can tell the Archbishop of Canterbury,
Justin,
she loves this, loves the attention.
The ABFC.
The ABFC going on and on. I think his voice is so annoying that it could be used in psychological warfare. I truly cannot stand the sound of his voice. So needless to say, we've fast forwarded through his speeches. I'm sure he's a very lovely person.
Nah, I'm sure he isn't. One thing we haven't covered is the single Michael Jackson glove.
Yes, thank you. Well remembered.
Are they saying now that Charles is officially also the king of pop?
Well, I think the title has been vacant since Michael Jackson's death, so perhaps they've sorted out the various claims to it and have decided in favour of His Majesty. So
yeah, because Usher was gunning for a while, wasn't he?
So who lost the other glove? Which monarch?
It's a good question.
Probably Ethelred.
I mean, so that's why he wasn't ready. I mean, it's quite interesting, some of the sort of the way the regalia comes together, because most of the crown jewels were lost during the Civil War. They were melted down when Cromwell was in charge because the monarchy was abolished. The only bit which survived was the anointing spoon, which we didn't see, sadly, despite it being the most important spoon in the world.
Because no one's allowed to see it, right?
Because the anointing isn't filmed, because it's a very private and sacred moment between the king and God.
In my head, though, the spoon floats by itself. It's like in Beauty and the Beast. It's a little animated little real spoon with eyes.
But the spoon was saved from the meltdown under Cromwell because a gentleman in London bought it and then restored it to the king in 1660 when Charles II was restored to the throne. So it's the only pre-1660 bit of regalia we have. But some of the bits of regalia, and there's one bit in particular, and I wish I could remember which it is, they don't know what it's for, but it's just been part of the stuff for so long that it's put out with the rest of the stuff. So, I mean, there were 4 swords being carried in the procession.
It's like
the
keys,
orbs,
right?
There's about 4 scepters.
Are you like this with keys? Like when you move house enough times and you go through old drawers and you find keys and you go, I've never had a lock that took a key like that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always one sort of standard Yale key which doesn't quite fit your front door.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's a key which is a different shape and you've no idea what
It's
it's for.
someone else's damn key.
Yeah.
Like they got covers on them. And you're like, I've never bought a key cover. Why do I have this key?
No.
So it's like that.
Yeah, it looks like it's someone else's bike lock or something.
Yeah.
But I guess it is like that. But if you've got all of this regalia, you may as well put it all out. I mean, it's stick that out in the altar as well. It's
And
nice.
yet it shows the paucity, doesn't it, really? Because we were saying this like off mic, like the good thing about Catholicism is it goes, hell for leather. And the good thing I think about like sort of Quaker and those kinds of very humble religions is they go leather for hell. But this is sort of halfway between. It's like we've got a few things.
I
And
think
in just having a few things, it's a bit.
But it does show you that, we think of this as an incredibly ancient traditional business, which it is because, there are bits of this ceremony going back more than 1,000 years. But at the same time, it's always being reinvented. So, bits of it were invented for the coronation in 1953. And because we're doing them again 70 years later, at the next coronation, they'll have been done twice before. And, it's a constant sense of reinvention and re-emphasis of different parts of the tradition, which is what keeps the monarchy alive, I suppose.
Yeah, but none of the objets are new, are they?
No.
When are we going to get
the
some
screen
new?
which was put around him at the anointing is new, but
The what?
the screen that was put around him at the anointing
Okay.
is new. The Queen only had a canopy over her, but then she didn't have cameras which were nearly as intrusive. So
Yeah. I just wonder if they will introduce like some NFTs or something,
probably, and now the royal crypto bro approaches His Majesty and says, "You want to get that on Bitcoin, man?"
with some brewskis.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
It's the theme tune.
Yeah. So everybody's got.
Well, I should say there was a whole bunch of choir boy stuff, right? For a long
There was a
time.
lot of singing. Camilla got her crown, which looked like it was placed quite precarious. Oh, she's still wearing it. Okay.
Well, no, they took it off and now it's
and now
back
they
on
put
again.
it back on.
She had to
Okay.
rearrange her hair. Justin snagged her fringe, her bangs.
Yeah.
She clearly wasn't entirely happy with the first placement, but then
No, she did not enjoy it. She was kind of picking at it for a while.
But we saw the spoon.
we did see
did.
the anointing spoon. That was very exciting. The most important spoon in the world.
So there was that. What else have we missed? They went out, they went in, they went out, they went in.
The king has now changed crowns, it should be said. He's now wearing the imperial state crown, whereas he was before wearing St. Edward's crown.
So is that the one that he wears to the opening of Parliament?
Yes.
Because he looks much more comfortable in that one.
Yes, they're both very heavy, but that is the one that he will be wearing more often.
It's a bit Mad Hatter, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the interesting thing about crowns is you tend to look at them in isolation. You think, well, that's a nice piece of jewellery. And then you see them on someone, you think, that actually makes your head twice as big.
But it's that it tapers. It's that it's more narrow at the bottom than the top.
that is a bit strange.
Like, for me, a good crown shouldn't have fabric.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because the fabric part of the crown is a sort of a hangover from the old cap and maintenance that you'd wear underneath your crown, which would be a sort of circlet. And we do have a cap of maintenance, which is carried in front of the sovereign at the state opening of Parliament. But it's a sort of, the modern crown is a sort of combination of two things. It's a sort of the warm, furry cap and then the circlet put on top.
He's sponsored by Getter, it looks like.
Yeah, he's wearing their brand,
Purple and gold.
their brand colours, which is nice. He's
No one outside the UK is going to get that.
He's
but
got a
that's fine.
different ermine robe on this time from the one he wore in the bug.
I really
in the
like
buggy.
this one.
The one he wore earlier had smaller, more plentiful spots, whereas they found a couple of little ermines who weren't so spotted for this one.
Well, this one looks less mangy. I'll say, than the first one.
But the same bows on. It's interesting. It's interesting. You might think it's the same, but it is not the same. More than a few little ermines.
Yeah, the first one looked really mangy, like I said.
What do you think they're talking about?
I think they're just, doing all the prayers and the blessings.
Oh, we should say for the beautiful listeners.
He'll be asking the chief rabbi if he's going to the Spurs match later, presumably.
Yep. Kickoff is very soon. He certainly will be. Absolutely ridiculous that they are having Premier League soccer matches in London today. Well done. God only knows where the police are going to come from to manage that. Or indeed how anyone's going to get to the games.
Right. That, I think, is probably the bigger concern.
But more than that, Spurs, Tottenham Hotspur are playing Crystal Palace. It's a London derby. Absolute carnage.
Maybe they think some people can walk.
Yeah. The poor people outside of Westminster is all quite small, surely. Yeah. All right, they're going outside. The rain seems to have stopped. That's nice.
We should say the chief rabbi to whom he was just talking was given overnight accommodation by the royal family because of it is, of course, the Sabbath, and so the chief rabbi could only walk to the ceremony. So rather than walk a long way, he's only walked from Buckingham Palace or Westminster. I can't remember which, but certainly within walking distance.
And presumably Boris came on his bike.
Well, he certainly looked like he might have done.
He certainly looked like he did, yeah.
I was going to say something very unkind about Mrs. Johnson there, but I shan't.
Yeah. No, it's still raining. Little Louie's going to ask to go into the shop, obviously. If you've ever taken a kid to any event and there's a gift shop, there is no way you're leaving that building without buying, at the very least, a pencil with a fancy eraser. At the very least.
That costs like $10.
Yeah.
And possibly a bookmark.
Charles is, we're not listening to any of this, but Charles has been quite gobby with everyone. He's having a little chit chat to everyone. He's been very taciturn, but now that he is the anointed king, he's chittering away to everyone he passes.
Well, I suppose despite the fact he's wearing the crown, the weight is now off his shoulders, as it were.
Yeah.
If that's not too mixed a metaphor. He's had his big day, and now it's party all the way.
Well, they say heavy is the head that wears the crown. I've always thought that's silly, though, because no, it isn't. It weighs exactly the same as any other head. It is the crown that is heavy. That is a stupid phrase.
Yeah. It's just the amount of thwack it makes when it hits the floor.
I think it's...
Oh.
I mean, not to point out the obvious, but I think it's that the head that wears the crown becomes heavy with responsibility. Although I do think some of the oaths are interesting because they're not they talk about power and leadership and stuff like that, and obviously the Lord King Sovereign or whatever has a lot. Sorry, I always get it wrong. They don't have the same power and influence that they once yielded. So it's interesting that they've not.
Or wielded.
I mean, maybe they have updated that.
Well, the coronation oath is written into statute, so it can only be changed by changing the law, which makes it all a bit difficult. But of course, the other thing is that a lot of political power in this country is still wielded through the crown.
Yeah, it's the gift of the crown.
I mean, laws are only made with royal assent. That's never refused, but the king formally has to agree to every law that is passed. The government is theoretically appointed by him. It is his government. He appoints the prime minister. He appoints ministers. None of this is done on his own initiative, and it's all done at the say-so of political and largely elected officials, but it's all done in his name. So, it's kind of illustrative of the semi-fiction that our Constitution exists on.
It's worth saying as well to our American listeners who aren't aware of this, but there is no written constitution in the UK.
Well, there's no codified constitution. There are various bits of things written down, but it's not all collected into one document, no.
No, I mean, some of it's found in the safe.
I mean, we have
in pencil with crossings out.
We have bits of Magna Carta. We have the Bill of Rights, 1688. We have the Parliament Acts, the Human Rights Act for the moment. There are various what we call constitutional documents, I suppose,
God,
but we don't
that's
have
so
one.
bleak for the moment.
But
The
we don't
Human
have
Rights
one
Act.
document which is headed Constitution of the United Kingdom.
What were you saying is bleak? The rain
No, it's
or the
bleak.
Constitution?
It's bleak that we have the Human Rights Act for now, and that could
Oh,
easily change.
Yeah.
That's what's this guy saying?
Shut up! That's what it looked like.
How can he even see?
But this is the thing. They wear their helmets so low, these soldiers. Maybe they have to be that low because the chin straps are so short.
You think they could do something about that, though?
It's very odd. It's very odd.
So yeah, lots of marching.
Well,
So this gold carriage is a lot.
That, I think, is the Speaker's state coach, which is the oldest coach that they have.
no air conditioning, no suspension.
And look at the way it's bouncing. You can see why they didn't want to use it all the way there.
Yeah, it's awful, isn't
They
it?
still haven't eaten in a while. I'm just saying.
Can't they add some
Playing pretty
springs
fast
onto
and
that?
loose.
I mean,
think
didn't Philip, when he was, playing around with the carriages, and he was into that, wasn't he?
I think it's suspended by leather straps.
Are
That's the
these
problem.
people all really tiny?
Yeah.
Or is it just depth perception because that carriage is a different size?
I hope it's depth perception. We just haven't rounded up, all
All
of
the small people in.
those of limited growth.
Well, it's really irritating, but the whole Middleton clan family are very pretty today, aren't they?
They're
Apart from William.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, they all look rather lovely. And those children look very, very, very nice. And I quite like them.
And he did a good job. I was very impressed.
Still getting used to seeing everything with the CR on it as opposed to the ER. Of the,
Yeah, that's weird
the,
too.
the royal.
Horses kicking off.
Cristiano
again.
Ronaldo's ecstatic.
Has he trademarked that? No. surely not.
CR7 he has, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So 4 Charleses from now, there's going to be a massive
look
legal
at
battle.
him.
The him in question being little Louis.
Yeah, sorry, I should have said.
If a plane goes overhead, they're fucked.
Prince Louis kind of banging on the windows of the carriage, looking like he wants to get out.
Fogging it up.
Yeah.
He disappeared for part of the ceremony. We don't know where he went.
He was either rummaging under the seats or he just went feral, like the Australian cartoon character, the whirling
Oh,
Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just started running up and down the aisles, biting people. I imagine that's what I think happened.
I would love that. I think they probably gave him some children's Dramamine. Just for
Didn't the Queen
safety.
Mother drink that?
Dramamine and gin, please. Yes.
Well, the Blue Horses are back. I guess they're going back to Buckingham Palace. Elliot, do you have any idea if there are further fun and games planned for the rest of the day?
There's a concert tomorrow, I think, but there is an event this evening, I think, for invites only, which it is notable only in this context insofar as Harry won't be there because he's flying straight back to California because it's Prince Archie's birthday, I believe.
Oh, how inconsiderate.
He's heading back to try and catch the last of that. But yes, there is some kind of dinner this evening.
Is there not going to be a balcony wave?
Oh, I think there is a balcony scene, yes, because there has been some discussion of who was eligible to be on the balcony and who was not. The decision, I gather, has been that it will be working royals only, so the kind of core members of the family.
Right, once again, no Andrew, yeah.
No Andrew, and no Beatrice or Eugenie. So it will be an interesting reminder of who the kind of new
Lineup.
first 11 is.
Yeah, the starting lineup. Will any planes fly overhead?
I believe the Red Arrows are scheduled to make an appearance. Although the cloud is a bit low, but they should be all right.
Oh, it could happen again, honey. It could happen again. The noise.
I'm so mad I didn't get to see that like when it first aired because it must have been such a marvel. All right, we're fast forwarding through.
We're fast forwarding. We've got some royal drummers. I bought you a drum kit, didn't I, love?
Yeah, you did.
Maybe one day you'll be on that horse for the next coronation.
I doubt very much I will ever be on another horse again in my life, as I've previously discussed many times. But, never say never. I have learned.
Princess Anne
Again,
there. Our
Princess
real
Anne.
queen.
Yeah.
Princess Anne, as we discussed earlier today, acting as gold stick in waiting, in charge of the king's personal security.
Gold stick. She's the princess with a love of horses.
The Princess Royal
Yeah.
Princess Royal, indeed.
with the hot husband.
Can you define Princess Royal?
The Princess Royal is the title usually given to the eldest daughter of the sovereign. So the previous one was Princess Mary, wasn't it? Who was Edward VII's daughter and the sister of George V. I think is right.
It's a funny phrase, though. Why Princess Royal?
I suppose,
Given that they're all royal.
I suppose it's the.
I think it's to tell you just which one it is, really. Look at that
Yes!
face.
Ah, he is
Prince-
Kylo Ren.
Louis is surveilling his what will what won't one day be his, but in his mind, surely he will have.
One day, all of this will be your brother's.
Well, he's thinking, I'm going to fuck this all up for my brother.
Yeah.
Just like my uncles fucked it up for my dad.
He does look so much like Andrew.
Uh,
Better looking, of course.
I mean, this is true. The second
look at
born
that
has
face.
fucked it up. Oh, he's done it again.
Look
He
at that
has
scowl.
done it again.
Look at these poor people. Have them shot.
I love him. He's the best.
He is. He gives great.
What is the roundabout outside Buckingham Palace called? Well, the dogs have just seen a couple of horses and they're kicking off. It's like the Albert Memorial, but it's not.
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know.
No.
Must
What
have a
you can
name.
hear in the background undoubtedly is our pug taking great umbrage.
She's ignored the 5,000 horses that have already been on TV. She's seen one she doesn't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully.
Well, they're going back to the palace, as you can all probably tell. I guess this is the garden. The garden part. You never see the gardens of Buckingham Palace.
No, they are. They're very big.
They're very big.
Does anything go on there, like training or anything? You're poised to step on the remote, Inkers.
They have a lot of garden parties there and sort of social events because it's a useful space when it's dry. Although they've got marquees up and stuff to keep the rain or the
Only
worst
on
of
the
rain off.
periphery. I'm telling you, wherever these things are stored, it is gonna smell.
Well, the hats.
Yeah.
The bearskin hats.
Mm. Yes, there are a lot of people in a lot of wet wool today, I think is.
Yeah.
Although in the 19th century, the wool that they made soldiers' kilts out of, when it got wet, it actually became very sharp on the pleats, and it used to cut the backs of the legs of Highland soldiers.
Ouch. Oh, these are the beef eaters, right? The
Nope.
ones. No, not these. They'll cut back to it in a second, I think.
Now, apologies if the sound has gone squiffy. The pug decided to kick a whole bunch of equipment, and we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, we're just
We're rolling
rocking
through
with
it.
for the time being.
I hope you all enjoy this kind of the live-ish cast that we're doing here. We're aware that there could be pauses. That's fine. We're in no rush. Are you in a rush?
We're making an effort to cut through all the boring parts, but without
Here we go.
prior knowledge. Here we go. So those are beefeaters is what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Those are
Those
beef
are-
eaters.
I
That's
finally-
right.
The yeomen
So
of the guard.
to explain what's happening, King Charles and Queen Camilla have now strutted out onto, I guess, the rear deck.
Yes, they're onto the patio at Buckingham Palace, and they're now being greeted by serried ranks of soldiers and marines and the like, and the massed bands on the lawn.
I mean, Charles is obviously thinking, this is going to fuck up my grass, right?
Yeah.
But he's also thinking, all of these soldiers are mine,
Yeah.
and so I can just have somebody lay some new grass.
Yeah, true.
So yes, I think he's probably having a good day. It's sometimes hard to tell with His Majesty by facial expression alone whether he's enjoying himself.
That's what I'm
But-
saying.
I think it's easier to tell than it was with his mother.
Yes, I mean, the Queen had had a lot of time to practice the complete impassivity of the face.
I just remember one year on one of her birthdays, it was raining and she just looked like she could not be fucked.
Yeah.
Like she was so over it. She had had quite enough.
I don't know what they've done with perspective here, but some of these soldiers look like toy soldiers.
Yeah,
they're
they
so
look
tiny.
right? I don't know if it's like the way that it's filmed or
Do you have to be under a certain height to ride the ride?
like that guy
That
holding
guy-
the sword.
Because
Looks
there's people
tiny.
behind him who are twice his height.
I mean, guardsmen are often very tall, but I don't think that tall, unless he is, perhaps he's an officer on a midget submarine.
I don't think you can say that anymore, Ellie.
It's a term for a boat.
Is it really?
Yeah.
One thing we haven't talked about on the mics, I don't think, are the shoes.
Right, Charles's
Yes,
shoes.
Yes.
Yeah, he's come straight from a pantomime performance.
Oh no, he hasn't.
Patent leather and buckles.
He is wearing sizable buckled shoes, or rather, shoes with sizable buckles, it should be said, which they are part of the traditional court dress. One wears breeches and stockings and buckled shoes, but he's wearing them with trousers.
With trousers, it doesn't work, does it?
So is that the problem? Is that why
I think
it doesn't?
I think that's
Yeah.
what's not quite working for him there.
Just wear a pair of Oxford brogues. Be done with it.
Or whatever he wears with military uniform usually, but it's an unhappy hybrid, I think, given that he's got the sort of the purple tunic and
Now, is it customary for the bearskins to have these things stuck in them, or is this a special thing? I've not noticed those.
the tufts on the side.
Yeah.
Those denote which of the 5 guards regiments you are in.
Okay.
Each regiment has a different coloured hackle, except the Scots Guards, I think, which don't have a hackle at all. The other ones all have different coloured ones, so you will be able to tell which of the 5 regiments they are.
Okay.
They are from the colour and placement of the hackle.
Now they've let the proles into the mall.
Good lord, the mall is now full of of people.
Now, if this were Trump's inauguration,
I was just about to say that.
that's how you fill a fucking road.
Yeah, it sure is.
Right? That's how you do it. That is pleb to pleb as far as the eye can see.
And once again, the weather today is not good. It should be stressed. Like these are people who are enjoying being in a crowd, getting rained on, presumably waiting for hours since the
You mean they're Brits?
early hours of the morning. Yeah.
There is nothing a Brit likes more than to stand and wait for
Yeah,
hours
that's
in the rain.
true.
They
Yeah.
are having the best day of their fucking lives. And you know what? They'll do it all again tomorrow, and all they'll get in return is Lionel Richie.
What? So why
And
did
maybe
he
take that.
That's quite intriguing to me because loads of people turned it down, right?
Yes. Just
Um,
about everyone turned down the concert tomorrow.
And were they able to release who was asked or who was invited? I guess not.
I
Probably.
don't think there was any official comment on people that had been invited. Obviously, there were some leaks about people who had supposedly said no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult with these concerts, and I always found that with the ones that they had for the Queen's later jubilees, because by the stage of a jubilee for a 90-year-old, you're thinking, well, this is clearly not her taste in music.
Right.
Sure.
So who
yeah.
is it for? Is it just music which will entertain the crowd, or is it supposed to be music which is in some way special to the person in whom it's supposedly of honor?
Hey, I would not be disappointed in any way by Lionel Richie. I mean,
No, but I'm
that's-
just
what I've
saying
heard.
that the people that choose it are the people that work at the palace, really, and they've got they have the same taste in music that footballers had in the 1980s, right? They're not really very with it, right?
No, it's not.
They would
cutting
book
edge
Simply
stuff.
Red.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Stormzy will have been approached, although maybe he was.
Well,
I don't know.
He'll bloody do anything, won't he?
But yeah, I mean, I don't expect there to be a lot of urban grime or stuff like that.
No, they clean the streets.
Except for all the horse poo.
yeah, there's plenty of horse poop.
That will be the only urban grime we see this weekend.
Yeah. I think your Sheerans and that, they all turned it down, didn't they?
Adele.
Yeah.
Well,
who
Sheeran's
would've-
just been in court, hasn't he, with the copyright
Yeah,
case?
he won.
He did?
Yep.
He did?
He
Yeah.
did.
He did. So he is not quitting the music business. I think the likes of your Elton's basically retired now because
Well, he was obviously
he's
not
essentially dead at this point, isn't he?
No, he was obviously not going to do it because he was very good friends with Diana.
With Diana. There aren't many left. I mean, a Queen doing it,
What? What are you talking about?
like Brian May's Queen.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because they did the Jubilee.
They did. I remember Brian and May standing on the roof and...
But maybe because they're not called King, it would be inappropriate.
I kept thinking that you've been joking about this just because of the name Queen. Are you saying he's still touring? Like,
Yeah.
how many of them are still alive?
All of them apart from Freddie.
So
you got
who's
Adam Lambert.
Oh, right.
They've been through a few leads, haven't they? Because they
Yeah.
had...
Well, George Michael toured
No.
with them, I think.
Sure, at the tribute concert, lots of people sang, but they've been touring. I believe
Yeah.
there might be an album on the way. There is new music, and yeah,
They should get that guy who
It's
did
awful.
Eurovision last year.
They
He's
should.
a great singer.
Yeah.
And he should have won Eurovision.
So no, I'm not kidding about that. But I think the sort of people then end up with at the concert will be, I know people from musicals and so, the people that you can always
Probably.
rely. Michael Ball will do anything.
Yeah.
Although I think Michael Ball turned it down.
Maybe Alfie Boe?
Yeah. Take That, I believe, are doing it without Robbie Williams.
Are you kidding? He is the biggest whore in
I
the
know.
world
I know he'll play the opening of the World Cup.
in Qatar.
Yeah, take some of that Qatari money.
Qatar, sorry.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
But I
All
guess we
right.
don't have that kind of money, right?
We're going
We've
to
been
the balcony
vamping
now.
We've been
Yes.
vamping. They've moved from the garden up, presumably a few flights of stairs. They're at the front-facing balcony of the palace. The people have been allowed all the way to the perimeter.
That is such a that promotional photo of the king is so Partridge. It's not even true. Did you see it?
Yeah.
It's very Partridge.
He's got the single glove. It's good.
So Elliot and I were just saying that particular color combination on His Majesty King Charles III combined with the big gold necklace it's giving Flava Flav.
It really is sort of like you're commissioning an advert and you need somebody to be obviously a king, and so somebody's put on a slightly cheap costume.
I mean, I would argue that it is more the King of Burger.
There
than
is
the
an
King of
element
England.
that. It's. I think it's mainly the color of his purple tunic.
Yeah,
underneath
that's
it.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not. It's sort of this.
And I know what you're saying, Michelle. Like the medallions are very what time it is, right? It's yeah, it's good. Will's looks like he's come from academia.
Yeah.
Yes, with William wearing his garter robes.
So that's the next generation, right? These are the ones who are going to be in the sex and drug scandals probably for the next 40 or so years.
I suppose so. Yes.
Quite fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
God willing.
It's a bit like 3T. Do you remember 3T? It was the Jackson follow-up band that I think Tito tried to put together with like the nephews and kids of the Jackson brothers. I don't think did Janet ever have children?
I believe she had one when she was 50.
Have you seen a picture of Janet Jackson recently? Because she's going back out on the road. She's looking good.
I was not aware.
She's in good shape.
Camilla's kind of pointing at something. Louis looks miserable.
Well,
as he
Camilla's
waves.
pointing to the tree she used to have to hide behind. I never thought I'd be on here. Wonderful. Well, it's a very rainy, miserable day in London, I've got to say. They fucked this up. Princess Leia waving to the crowd.
She is so gorgeous.
Louis is, uh-oh.
Uh-oh, here they come.
We're going to fly over now.
Uh-oh. It's a
So
helicopter.
the helicopters have appeared.
Bring out the ear protectors. He's going to have none of it.
Either that or one of them saying, "Oh, you organised a fly past." I didn't organise a fly past. Wait, those aren't our helicopters.
Uh-oh.
Andrew's like, I could fly one of those if you want me to be involved.
Although last time he did that, it did stop his. He gave him an overdose of adrenaline, and he couldn't sweat for many years afterwards. So.
Oh, here we go. Louis is kicking off.
I'm just admiring the jewels in the king's crown, literally.
Who are those little punks behind the king there, leaning
That keep
out?
They're
like,
probably Aquaries.
do they not realise that they're behind the king and they're on camera?
Yes, they're no photobombing His Majesty.
Yeah.
Well, there, they've made them all squished together. All right, so we're still looking at these helicopters.
This is the worst remake of Apocalypse Now I have ever seen.
Already, I think.
And it all closes with Louis saying, "The horror, the horror."
I think Kate is preempting Louis there, but she was not telling him off. But you can't really tell with mothers, of course, because she could be smiling and saying something horrible. Look,
They've
there he
said,
is.
don't put your hands anywhere near your ears, you little shit. And he's going, I love the smell of olive oil in the morning.
Yes, I suppose both the king and queen will be quite fragrant by now, having been smeared with scented oil.
Yeah, they've been well and truly basted.
Yeah.
If it was a hot day,
Gosh, what a shame. Edward's daughter looks exactly like him.
I have to say, if this was China, there would be rather more aviation things in the sky. Like a few Chinooks does not
Yeah,
an impressive military
probably
force
all
make.
we can spare at the moment.
Well, yeah, again, you can't have austerity.
You can't
and-
scale back. Don't do it. You can't just have a few helicopters. It's meaningless.
I can't imagine that black wool coat is. There's a guy behind Camilla with curly hair who keeps like sticking his face out, and it's oh no, here they come. All right, well, here's some other.
The Red Arrows, I believe, which
Yes.
is the formation flying team.
Though somewhat masked by low cloud.
Yeah. I mean, I'm imagining that's red, white, and blue smoke coming out from behind them, but it all looks grey.
Oh, no, there we go.
Here we go.
Oh no, here we are.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got red, white, and blue, and absolutely nothing for Northern Ireland.
Or Wales.
No, well, ooh, you might be right. I mean, I think they're covered by the red, aren't they?
No, I thought Wales was yellow.
Well, Wales doesn't get represented on the Union flag because it's not
It's a
technically
principality, yeah.
legally a separate country, or at least it wasn't when the Union flag was designed. Because Wales was.
Now, do you see the noose knot
I do, yes.
in his robe there? It's very odd. Well, everyone, we're wittering, but it's fine because you still haven't done the washing up. You need to unload the dishwasher. We'll just keep you company while you do
I mean,
that.
the thing is, this is the best part because did you see the guy with the curly hair that time?
I missed him.
He will not give it up. Who are these geezers on the far right?
That's the Tory party.
That is the Duke of Kent and the Duke of Gloucester.
Wow, well spotted.
The Duke of Kent is now 87, I think, and the Duke of Gloucester's in his late 70s. They're both the they're grandsons of George V. So
Wow.
they're the nephews of the late king. So they're
Right.
the sort of cousins of the Queen.
Okay. Then they are too old to to be out for this.
Is there currently a Duke of Wellington?
Yes, there is. Yeah, he's a member of the House of Lords, indeed.
He doesn't still get to live at 1 London.
I think he still has a flat at Apsley House, yes. And he had some part in the coronation ceremony, but I can't remember what it was. But he was certainly carrying something, or
I mean, that is genuinely an address, isn't it?
It certainly was when the house was built. Yes, it was number 1 London.
Number 1 London. Incredible.
But then, it won't be familiar to American listeners, but there was a TV presenter in this country called Richard Whiteley, much beloved of afternoon quiz show audiences, who was very proud of the fact that he once had a letter delivered to him which was addressed to Dick, England.
Wow. Was it intended for him?
It was indeed. Now,
because I think Poodle might have sent that.
I personally wouldn't have taken it as a great compliment that a message simply addressed to Dick, England, reached me. That somebody at the post office looked in and thought, oh, it must be Richard Whiteley.
But no one called him Dick.
What he did in his private life was his own affair. He did used to refer to himself as Twice Nightly Whiteley.
Well, good. I have a funny feeling they've put a crown on events, as it were. We have reached the promised end. All there is left to do now is to show the Great Unwashed, although they have been somewhat washed by the rains.
And to break out the loony cake, which I have ordered special for this occasion, the Victoria sponge.
Wonderful. Well,
so I want to thank my husband for organizing all the ands and doing the engineering work and putting up with how stressed and angry I was this morning irrationally.
I want to thank my wife for arranging our beautiful spread and getting all this together and having the damn idea in the first place and being a delightful and charming co-host.
And we both want to thank Elliot Wilson, without whom this entire recap would have consisted of
a couple of pricks talking shit.
Yep, that's right.
Better to make it 3. Delight to be here.
Well, in the immortal words, thank you ever so much for listening. We'll see you soon. And
God save the king.
The king.